Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Picture this. A bright sunny day, me rolling down the aisles of my favorite grocery store, ready to tackle my weekly shopping. Little did I know that this routine trip would turn into a crazy encounter with an entitled woman and her bratty kid. Strap yourself in, folks, because this story is about to take you on a roller coaster ride of frustration and ultimately sweet justice. As I navigated the store in my trusty wheelchair, carefully selecting items from the shelves, I noticed a woman and her child approaching. The first sign that something was amiss was the way they both ignored the reserved for disabled shopper sign on a shopping cart. Instead, they plunked their oversized bags right in the middle, as if they owned the place. I tried to shake off the annoyance and continue my shopping, but as luck would have it, they ended up in the same aisle as me. The kid, around 5 or 6 years old, seemed to have been raised on a diet of sugar and pure chaos. He ran around grabbing items off the shelves and tossing them aside, all while his mother stood there, seemingly unfazed. Inching closer to me, the kid's curiosity got the better of him. He spotted my wheelchair and decided it would be fun to play a game of bumper cars. He spotted my wheelchair and decided it would be fun to play a game of bumper cars. With a mischievous gleam in his eye, he rammed his shopping cart into mine, causing me to jolt forward. "Hey, watch it!" I exclaimed, my patience already worn thin by this point. The entitled mother turned her head for a moment and gave me a half-hearted smile, but said nothing to her unruly child. I gritted my teeth, realizing I would need to assert myself if I wanted this madness to stop. "Excuse me, ma'am, but your child just rammed his cart into mine. It's not only disrespectful, but it's also dangerous," I said, trying to maintain a calm tone. She glanced at me dismissively, shrugging her shoulders. "Oh, kids will be kids. They are just having fun." My blood began to boil. It wasn't just about the physical jolt. It was a blatant disregard for others' well-being. I mustered all my strength not to let frustration get the best of me and continued on with my shopping. But as luck would have it, our paths crossed again. This time, the kid decided it would be amusing to grab items from my basket and throw them around like confetti. As I watched my carefully chosen groceries scatter across the floor, I felt a mix of anger and helplessness wash over me. Enough was enough. I mustered all my courage and called out to the store manager for help. Thankfully, the manager, sensing the escalating tension, quickly intervened. However, much to my dismay, the entitled mother turned on her charm, playing the victim card. "This woman is just trying to make a big deal out of nothing," she protested, a false innocence painted on her face. The manager, clearly torn between sides, tried to mediate the situation, but it was clear to everyone around that this woman's behavior was inexcusable. As voices rose, a concerned bystander dialed the authorities, summoning the police to the scene. However, the entitled woman had completely lost control. In a fit of rage, she started hurling items from the shelves, sending grocery products flying through the air. People scattered, seeking cover from the chaos unfolding before them. Amidst the pandemonium, the entitled woman's fury escalated even further. She fixated her anger on me, the disabled person she had targeted from the beginning. With a terrifying determination, she rushed toward me, pushing her fully loaded cart with reckless abandon. Fear gripped me as I braced for impact, unable to move quickly enough to evade her oncoming assault. But just as it seemed like all hope was lost, a courageous bystander, a bulky man with a heart of gold, stepped forward. With unwavering strength and lightning-fast reflexes, he intercepted the entitled woman's cart, pushing it aside with an impressive force. The collision was enough to knock her off balance, sending her crashing to the floor. The commotion drew the attention of other shoppers who had watched the situation unfold with growing concern. They quickly rallied around, forming a protective barrier between the entitled woman and me, ensuring that she could no longer inflict harm. Meanwhile, someone had called the police again, this time urgently requesting immediate assistance. Within minutes, the wailing sirens grew louder, signifying the arrival of reinforcements. The police stormed into the grocery store, their authoritative presence demanding order. Without hesitation, they approached the entitled woman who was still lying on the floor, stunned and disoriented from her fall. Seeing the havoc she had caused and the danger she had posed to others, the officers wasted no time in restraining her. Handcuffs were swiftly placed around her wrists, sealing her fate. The onlookers breathed a collective sigh of relief, grateful for the swift action taken by both the bystanders and the police. In the aftermath, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Gratitude overwhelmed me for the courageous intervention of the bulky bystander who had risked his own safety to protect mine. I was also profoundly grateful for the solidarity shown by the other shoppers who had swiftly come to my aid and shielded me from harm. While the experience had been harrowing, it was a powerful reminder of the strengths we possess as a community when we stand together against injustice. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for ordinary individuals to become extraordinary heroes in the face of adversity. It was 2012 and I was at the height of my college enjoyment. I was living with my grandparents after a bad car accident that knocked some sense into my crazy life, and I was working hard to make my life proud and gain some traction under my feet. Having always gravitated towards art, I chose this as my major and purchased it with flying colors. I was consecutively making the dean's list, staying home instead of going out, and soaking up every bit of knowledge I could to protect and ensure the success of my future. Heck, I was even taking summer classes to graduate early, knowing the sooner I could get out of school, the faster I could start my budding career. It was all peachy keen until a new teacher was hired in the art department. We will call him Mr. Thin, as he was a tall, thin, sort of gangly type with thick-rimmed glasses. All good, right? I was excited to meet someone new who could teach me new things. Except Mr. Thin was not exactly the friendly type. In fact, I couldn't understand why he had gotten into teaching, because I had tried to warm up to him a couple of times and got nothing but frozen shoulders. No one could get close to him. He made awful jokes. In the classroom, it was clear he had some serious insecurities, and his inability to cope with his own issues came out in weird ways, lashing out at students not doing what they were supposed to, making fun of and giving examples out of students not properly following instructions he had given with poor verbal direction, and ultimately making everyone feeling sort of uncomfortable in his presence. We all did the best that we could to try and cope with it when going to class with him, and stayed focused on the ultimate goal, learning new techniques and getting a passing grade. I had already taken a printmaking class with this teacher and knew what he was like. By this time, my grandmother's illness was getting progressively worse. It didn't help that she was misdiagnosed and given the wrong treatment, and she was a pinnacle that kept our large family together. Thanksgiving was always at her house every year, traditionally being the binding factor that kept us all connected and grounded. She was unfortunately in and out of the hospital for chemo, and nothing seemed to be going right. I remember the slight silence coming over her as she accepted her fate. As such, I missed a few days of school here and there to help my grandfather take care of her and make sure she was okay during his time working at the office. He hasn't retired and I'm not sure he will. I did my best and most of my teachers were lenient, knowing full well the scope of my situation. I had even written a letter to Mr. Thin expressing our family's woes and my commitment to continue my learning track. Though I was not physically present, Unfortunately, as I was scheduled to take a graphic design class as part of my required classes, I was grouped with Mr. Thin again as a teacher, something I wasn't exactly looking forward to as I got no response from my letter, but that I would do my best trying to focus on my education while my grandmother was slowly dying. Again, he made extremely uncomfortable jokes and made kids feel unable to do as he had commanded, never directly saying it but always implying that everyone was an idiot and that he held all the knowledge, that we should all be praising him for this great opportunity bestowed upon us to learn from him. It was grueling, reminding him of my family situation yet again. He pressed me about my absences in class and threatened to flunk me, giving no leeway or helpful solutions whatsoever. Eventually, I had moved out and down the street from my grandparents' place. One Tuesday, I went to go visit them and check in on my grandpa. As I pulled up to the house, I remember walking off the front curb and seeing gurney tracks in the snow, and the house was empty. I knew this was bad. Eventually, I found my grandpa at the hospital and immediately joined him as he gave me the rundown. We made our way to her room and family slowly joined us day by day. I called the school to let them know what was happening and advisors stated they understood and told me to make sure to inform my teachers so they were prepared to help. Everyone was cool with the circumstances except, you guessed it, Mr. Thin. Unbelievably, I wrote to him again to let him know the scoop, and he flat out told me that I was lying and that he expected to see me in class the next day. Mind you, I had just gotten done sitting with a doctor and a priest, being informed these were the last moments. I lost it. I called the school back pissed that I was spending this time defending myself and my family during this sensitive time, that I even had to go through this and having these minutes taken from me as I said my final goodbyes with my grandma, trying to keep a collected head and be reasonable with outside personnel. They took note of this and let me know they would follow up, allowing me to focus on my family. She passed away. I grieved and I went back to school in silence. My grades took a slight dip. I stopped making the dean's list, but I made sure to pass my classes as it was still important to me, even though it was also untimely. I stopped speaking with Mr. Sen until I finally confronted him about his attitude and my situation. He defended himself by saying that sadly, college kids apparently use a dying grandma excuse all the time, saying this, mind you, without even getting to me or my situation, without asking a single question about my living situation, what hospital she was in, nothing. He was just assuming I was another lying college kid trying to get out of class. I filed a complaint and presented the death certificate and my previous USPS, United States Postal Service, confirmed address at my grandparents was the school, stating the teacher had no right to treat me like this. I knew my case was weak, I was missing school, but I wasn't a screw-up. I felt I had to do my part and say something, even if it meant knowing I would have to go back the next year, knowing he still had an office in the art building, where I spent most of the time. The juicy revenge. Fast forward to the summer before my junior or senior year. Remember, I was doing summer classes, so I was only in school for 3 years, and I was out to dinner with my then boyfriend and 2 of his good-looking guy friends. We had a nice time cracking jokes while the sun set over the river canyon. I lamented that this was my last summer before my schooling started for the last year, but after some time had passed, I was ready to make a better effort in order to make my grandma proud from the heavens above. We get up to leave and start walking out after paying the bills. And as we start walking through the restaurant, lo and behold, I see Mr. Thin mopping the floor straight ahead in my walking path. He watches as 3 gentlemen in front of me head towards the exit, then locks eyes with me as I follow. I kid you not. It was like a slow-motion caption. I without even realizing it, by pure habit, I just happened to wave in slow motion as I walked by, watching as he froze with a mop in his hand. It turns out his contract was not renewed for another year, and I retook my graphic design class with another teacher and passed with flying colors, graduating with a bachelor's in arts and going on to work for a major tech company in data analytics, likely making more than him. Mind blown. I was around 12 years old at the time. I had tagged along with my parents to a wedding, though I don't recall exactly whose wedding it was, and that's not important to the story. It was a typical extravagant Indian wedding, with hundreds of guests on a wide open lawn, and for the most part I was just roaming around while enjoying the snacks. Later on in the evening, when dinner had started, I regrouped with my parents who had taken seats at one of the tables, now joined by a few of our distant relatives who were also attending the wedding. At such functions, the food is served buffet style, but usually a lot of the more affluent hosts will also hire some part-time waitstaff so that guests won't need to get up and make a trip to the buffet for every additional helping of gravy, bread, or whatever. In this particular wedding, the waitstaff happened to be all wearing pink turbans, and so was I. You can see where this is going. Unfortunately, the number of waitstaff they had hired was not nearly enough for the hundreds of guests that were present, and it was almost impossible to get a hold of even one guy. There is dad, mom, and a couple, uncle and aunt at our table, and I finished eating really quickly because of all the snacks I'd had earlier. So dad asked me to fetch water for everyone, and being the obedient little kid I was, I agreed. I went to the buffet, picked up a plate, put 4 glasses of water on it, and started to head back. I had not taken even 3 steps before I got my shoulder grabbed by this lady I had never met before. Not giving me a chance to speak, she barks at me to follow her, to wait at the tables where the groom's immediate family are eating. I tried to speak a few words in protest, but she cut me off and yelled at me for being insubordinate. Now I realized that she had mistaken me for one of the waitstaff, but being the mischievous little kid I was, I didn't think it's important to clear it up yet. I just nodded, agreed to follow her, and asked what I should do with this water I was carrying. Being questioned by a lowly service worker clearly upset her, because a vein visibly popped on her forehead, and she replied with words that literally translate to "Dump it on my head, you jerk." But actually, it's a phrase that people often say in vexation when they believe the other person has asked a stupidly useless question, and that was her undoing. I simply nodded once again, uppinned the plate with 4 glasses of water on her face, and sprinted away. Luckily, I never saw her again, but I imagine the groom's family gave quite an earful to the catering contractor that night.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.